I'm going live, ma'am. Another 1 minute it will start, ma'am. Yeah, now
Okay,
it's
sir.
live. Yes,
Okay,
now
sir.
you can start patient.
Okay, sir. Can we start now?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sure, Madam, I can start.
Okay, okay. A very happy Sunday morning to one and all. We all must be aware of the cloud computing technology and the key advantages of migrating the data to the cloud. Today, our weekly generic talk series is on cloud computing. The title is Unlock the Power of AWS on Cloud. On behalf of the management, principal, deans, head of the departments, and faculty members of RMK College of Engineering and Technology, I warmly welcome our eminent speaker for today, Mr. Selvaiyyamperumal, AWS Engineer from Singapore. Welcome, sir.
Thank
I
you.
also warmly welcome Dr. Vijilsan Prem, Professor, Department of CSE, RMK College of Engineering and Technology, and Dr. Regin Paul, Associate Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, RMK College of Engineering and Technology, for their valuable presence. Welcome, sir. To say a few words about our distinguished speaker, Mr. Perumal has completed BTech in Information Technology from Anna University, Chennai in the year 2011. He has around 12 years of experience in the IT sector with experiences in banking and finance, government sectors like ministries. Currently, he is working in robotics and AWS-based projects. His hobbies are reading books, workout in gym, and traveling. Further, he actively volunteers himself to share his knowledge and experiences to the society. Welcome, sir. I
Thank you
now
very much.
invite our distinguished speaker, Mr. Selvaiyyamperumal, to take over the session. Please, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. That's a warm welcome. Thank you very much for that. And also, please convey my thanks to Mr. Sankar Ganesh, who has given me this opportunity to join in this wonderful forum. Thank you very much for that.
Okay,
So,
sir.
yeah, let me go into the actual topic, power of AWS. So we might have experiences about the cloud computing and all. We might have studied in the actual syllabus itself. So what is cloud and what are we going to do with the cloud? We might have some knowledge on it. So there are so many cloud providers in the market and who are providing their way of implementation in their part. So on top of that is the very most kind of like highly saleable product is kind of like is the AWS, which is nothing but the Amazon Web Services. So in the mid, right, we will talk about like, okay, what is the need of cloud? So why we needed the cloud infrastructure? So in a generic implementation, like, okay, client server implementation or in a normal implementation, right? We have a lot of demerits which is present. Example is like, okay, the data center has to be set up in a specific location. Let me take in your example, only one finance sector I will take. One topmost finance institution, if we take it, then in that topmost institution, the data has to be stored securely. So they must need a data center, and the data center, it has to be reliable, scalable. So what are all the things which we needed for establishing a data center? So we need a space, and also like the infra related details, and also the equipments and a lot of things are required to build a data center. The next question which comes into our mind is like, okay, is it a single data center is enough? So what if any earthquake or something which happens on the data center, how can we able to? So that's the next question, right? So then in that case, right, most of the financial institutions, they are building the data center in multiple areas in a single country itself. So which is something like data center A, data center B, and some even in very popular institutions, right? They are building another one data centers also, which is like a replica of a data center A. So what it means is like, if a data is stored in a data center V, the replica of the data will also be sent over to data center B and data center C. So this is how currently they are maintaining the data centers. Let's think practically, right? So what is the amount which is required? What is the amount which is required for managing all these data centers and also building all these data centers? How much is the e-waste which is happening because of these data centers? So is it really worthy to have this data centers? So then the concept of cloud arrival into the picture. So the initial implementation of AWS, which is implemented in some around the 1980s. And after that, that was implemented as part of their internal project. And then they have implemented into a worldwide infrastructure. So in this lecture, right, we will talk about what are all the cloud providers which are who are available in the market. And after that, specifically about AWS, which is my personal interest, and also which is one of the topmost cloud providers in the recent era. And then what are all the things which is provided by the AWS, and why are we considering AWS as a very topmost in the cloud? And also I will give you some of the demo, like, okay, how look and feel like how the AWS will do, and how can we create an instance. So there are some of the technical terminologies which I will tell you what an instance means, and also like, okay, how can we create an instance? Instance is nothing but a machine, virtual machine, which we can create inside the cloud. So again, this I have provided this information right sometime before. The traditional process, something like a client-server communication. There is nothing much over there. And then the building infrastructure, which is like creating a data center. Limited scalability. Why I am saying it as a limited scalability means, consider an example like I am having a 10 CPUs, which is present currently in my data center. It's just an example. But my business is growing because of some of the high net worthy client. So the client is performing a lot of transactions in a day, due to which I'm unable to process it. My CPU is unable to process it. So what it is happening is like the slowness is identified in the client side. So the client is creating a complaints, and due to which, right, I need to increase my CPUs. So what I need to do is like, I need to order for the CPUs. The hardwares need to be ordered, and then it will take some time. And also like, then that has to be managed inside the data center. So the lot of work is present. So the scalability is something, right? In a fraction of seconds, multiple CPUs to be created and multiple devices to be created. That is nothing but the extraordinary scalable. So that can be able to attain in the traditional process or in the normal process, which is behaved in the non-cloud environment. Answer is absolutely no. Though we are planning in a very well advanced mode, we cannot able to do it. Then disaster management. So disaster management is, as I mentioned earlier, it's like if the earthquake or something which happens, in that case, like how are we able to manage it? So that's what the problem which happens in the traditional process. So when we move into the cloud computing, it's something like on-demand delivery of the resources. So if you are a small scale based industry, then in that case, you don't need much of CPUs and all. So in that case, right, whatever the level of resources which you need it, that only you are paying it. That's what the next is like, pay as you go pricing. So another one example is, right, let's consider the banking. The banking peak hours are mostly on the day times. And in the weekends, there won't be much which is happening. So then to reduce my operating expenses, what I can suggest is like, I don't want these many servers to be on in the weekends. and also the public holidays. I want this server only be up and running only on 6 a.m. or like okay, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. or even 7 p.m. So in that case, right, we can able to enable those VMs to be created or it to be up and running only on these hours. So which means that I'm going to pay only to the time when I am using these servers. That's nothing but the pay-as-you-go pricing. Then access from anywhere. So currently, right, there are so many access restrictions which might be made because of the country's regulatory implications. So, but in the cloud computing, right, there are, okay, I mean, cloud is also complying the government restrictions. Based on the government's compliance, which are all the countries which government is allowing to access their network, those we can able to access it. Then high scalability, which is the tremendous and very high, I mean, very much I like it in this, it's highly scalable. Meaning to say, like in a fraction of seconds itself, we can be able to create multiple virtual machines without much delay in the time. So due to which, right, if there is a CPU need, if there is a server need, we can be able to create multiple virtual time without much deviations, time deviations or the time delays. That's a wonder in this cloud. Okay, then let me move on to the top cloud providers. So Amazon Web Services, as usual, which is the topmost currently in the market. Which doesn't mean that okay, others are not worthy. It's all growing in the market, and also Amazon Web Services, AWS is like topmost. It already reached their marketing information. Then in the Microsoft Azure, Microsoft product, Google Cloud Platform, which is like product of Google, Alibaba Cloud, and IBM Cloud, Oracle Cloud, and Dropbox. Dropbox is the one which we might be using it in the Apple products and all, like to store our files, to keep all photos, albums, everything inside. So those are all we might be using in the day-to-day life basis. So currently, right, knowingly or unknowingly, we are using this cloud in our day-to-day life. Example is like Gmail. So we are having a free Gmail account. Do you think that who will provide this much of data inside the Gmail for free? So do you think that a traditional type of data warehouse can able to incorporate this much data store? That's definitely not possible. So that's why, like, okay, Gmail is kind of a cloud in that it's working in the cloud. So that's why a lot of data can be stored inside the cloud. Now, let me move on to AWS. AWS is one of the cloud providers, which is kind of like a quite scalable product, which is providing. Some of the characteristics of this AWS are like on demand. There are quite number of repetitions you may see in this slide. Pardon me, please. And this is why I am insisting again and again is like, there are some of the terminologies we might need to be quite assured on the cloud related. So that's why I am putting quite number of times the same terminologies. On demand, again the same. Self-service. Self-service, what does it mean? It's like if I need to create one more CPU means I don't need to order or anything. In the AWS platform itself, immediately I go inside and then instantly I can create it. It's like I myself will do and increase the number of devices or the instances. Multi-tenancy, you can create a own platform for you, and that platform you can give it as a rent to the other people. So that is also possible in this. Scalability, which we have already seen. Measured usage. Measured usage is nothing like, okay, if you have any usage limits which you are already aware means that much level you can able to step a limits like up to this level only it has to use. After this limit, it has to go into a new server. Means, example is like 80% of the CPU has to be used. If there are some certain scenarios, 85% the CPU is getting increased, then in that case, what the cloud need to do is, it should create another server automatically without relying on the current. The reason behind is, post 80% of the CPU usage, there is a possibility that the slowness may be obtained, the slowness may be created in the client side. So to avoiding all these things and also to maintain the reputation of the customers, we are using this measured usage. So which in short, it is like to, after certain usages, we are insisting the cloud to create another instance. Then there are some of the solved problems here. Flexibility. What does it mean, flexibility? So it not only depending on only one OS, it's something like Linux based OS and also Windows and a lot of operating systems. It is flexible and it is supporting. In AWS, we can create Red Hat Linux. A lot of images are present and we can create enormous multiple OS based servers or client based systems in the cloud. Cost effective. As I said earlier, why I mean is cost effective is like it is pays as you use basis, which means that you no need to pay a single penny if you don't use it. Then scalable, then elasticity. Elasticity is something like if you, if you use a rubber band, it is like it's stretchable in nature, right? Which means like you can able to create as many virtual machines as much you need it, right? That's nothing but the elasticity. Then high availability. High availability is nothing but when you will say a system is highly available, which means that very less downtime, then you will say it as a highly available. So when can you accomplish this highly availability? When you have a primary, secondary related kind of server implementation is present, then in that case, you can say it as a highly available. Example is currently server A is currently primary and two secondaries are present. Then due to some of the downtimes, you are switching the services server A to server B as a primary, and then you are doing some of the activities in server A. So which means that in the client front, I don't find any issues because the server A tasks are all done by server B, which means that it is available all the time without any downtime. This is nothing but the high availability. Then fault tolerance. So if there are some issues are noticed inside a VM, what the cloud will do is, AWS will do is, it automatically deletes that server. It has zero tolerance. So which means that it immediately deletes that server and it creates automatically with the safe configuration one more server, and it will be automatically added into the cloud. This is nothing but the fault tolerance. You can say it as it's not at all tolerant, which to me personally, it's like it's not tolerant. Anything it won't tolerate because it will greatly impact the performance of the client systems. Agility. Agility, what do you mean? Like agile in nature means you can be able to implement a few things with very less timing without much expenses. That is nothing but the agility. Then there are two things which I am going to showcase you in this meeting today, which is nothing but the IAM and then the EC2. EC2 and IAM are like very famous. IAM is kind of like a very common in everywhere. It's not only related to AWS, it's everywhere. But I would like to initiate this first because the basics of AWS starts from here. What are all users? How can we onboard a user? And how can we merge the users into a specific group? And what are all the policies which we can implement based on this group? Example is like, let me take into a finance sector itself. I'm from an IT guy and somebody is from a operations team. So operations team handles the business data. I'm an IT guy. I'm not supposed to see the customer specific information. So which means that I need to create two groups and the users are dropped from, users needs to be created individually and the users has to be tagged into a specific group. Or in case of like some real-time example in your college itself. So like HR department will be there and then the staff department will be there, student department will be there. So department specific groups can be created and the policies needs to be implemented. Means students can have access to certain limits, staffs can have more access to some more things they can able to do it. Like if they wanted to delete any instances, definitely we cannot give that access to the student, right? So one more approval may be required to delete an instance manually. So that is nothing but the policies restrictions, which will be implemented in the IAM. Then about the elastic computing cloud, which is nothing but the EC2. EC2 is nothing like elastic compute cloud, which is the topmost famous in this AWS. It is nothing but the IaaS, which is nothing but infrastructure as a service. Everyone, I am damn sure that you all guys must be aware about the infrastructure as a service, which is something like an infrastructure built in the Amazon, which is provided as a service for some penny of amount. So it is Amazon is renting out some of their infrastructure to us. So what it is performing is like we can able to create our own instances. Instances, it's nothing but a virtual machine. We can create it. It's nothing a client machine or the server machine. Anything we can able to create it. And then storing the data. So data storage is nothing but like you can create your own RDS. Like we can create a database separately and distributing loads. Load distribution is nothing but if you have 3 servers in place means if a server A is more loaded means in that case, the server, the remaining request has to be sent out to server B and server C, right? So that's nothing but the distributing, load distributing. It's nothing but ELB, Elastic Load Balancer. Elastic Load Balancer is the one which is responsible for distributing the loads to different servers which are all running inside the cloud. Then scale using ASG, Auto Scaling Group. ASG is nothing but Auto Scaling Group. What is the functionality of ASG? Which is nothing but if suppose I have 2 servers which is already running, but somehow due to the need, we need one more server to be created. So auto scaling group or continuously monitoring the CPU performance. If suppose it needs more services or the servers needed or the CPUs needed, it automatically creates it. If suppose the usage is reduced means it automatically deletes it. What does it mean is whenever there is a need, ASG is capable of creating a new service, a new instance, and it will delete whenever there is no need, which means that you can able to serve operating expenses can be reduced in this. So this is nothing but this elastic compute cloud. In the global infrastructure, I would like to give you some details about like what actually it is. Sorry. Okay. So it's a global infrastructure about the AWS. Let me take India. So what the AWS is working is like the topmost layer is like regions. So the actual landscape, they have split it into multiple regions. And inside that region, they are splitting further, which is nothing but the availability zones. So let's consider in India, we have like Mumbai and Hyderabad are like 2 regions which is present. And each region can have 3 availability zones. 3 availability zones are nothing but multiple data centers will be present inside the availability zone. I will take you very deep into this things a bit later inside the demo session itself. So the first thing which you would like, which you need to be very clear is like AWS very topmost layer is like regions, and regions inside it's like availability zones. And inside availability zones, multiple data centers will be present, and multiple data centers will be connected by POPs. Okay, this is what the basics of it. Then let me move on to the slide again. I think we are already into the demo session. So, okay, fine. Then let me move on to the AWS console. Okay, this is the AWS console. Okay, how can we create for students like you? Is there any free service provided by AWS for this learning? Absolutely, yes. What are the things which you need? It is like your personal email address. Use this personal email address and log in. Okay, create an account for you. Please note that it may ask you your credit card details. The reason behind is credit card or debit card, any card details it will ask. The reason behind is if suppose more than a speculated usage which is considered as free, if you use it, it will be charged into your account. So means if you example is like if you created an instances and 750 hours, which is given as a free hours provided by AWS. So if you use or if your instance is active more than 750 hours, then in that case, that will be chargeable into your account. So you need to be very smart enough. Like if you are creating a virtual machine or an instance for you, just to create an instance, try to do all your own stuffs inside the virtual machine. And once everything is done from your side, just delete the instance, which means that you trash it immediately. So you can able to safeguard it. So this free usage period is for 1 year. So hopefully I trust you can able to learn AWS within this 1 year if you use it smartly. Okay. So please make sure that if you create an instance, don't leave just like that. If you leave just like that, then as many hours it will automatically calculates it. If that particular free trial usage is exempted, then you will be charged into your cards. So that is the reason they are asking for the card details. So please students, please be aware of this. Please use smartly. Then console. Console is like a overview of the page where you will see like, okay, how can we able to, it's like an overview of the page. So let us go into the IAM, Identity and Access Management. Okay, so there are few things I would like to show to you. So if you see here, right, it is mentioned as global. So whatever the details which is listed on over here are nothing but the regions which are present in AWS. So why it is grayed out is identity and access management is not region specific. It is global. So that is the reason these are all not enabled over here. But when you move into the EC2, it's EC2 instance, which is region specific, and you can be able to select the regions which is accessible for your membership. So based on that, it will enable only those regions. For example, right, I created my account in Singapore, which means that Asia Pacific related regions, including India, I can be able to access like Sydney, Singapore, and India, Mumbai region. So those are all the regions I can be able to access in those in my access details. So next is something like if you see like US, Asia Pacific Mumbai region, how you need to read it is as Asia Pacific Mumbai region, Asia Pacific Osaka region, Asia Pacific Singapore region, Asia Pacific Sydney region. This is how you need to read it. So AP Southeast -2 is the second availability zone. So there is a possibility AP Southeast Asia 1 is another availability zone. So inside this, there are multiple availability zones will be present. So this is how you need to read it. Now, account ID will be present. So this is a, okay. There will be a possible like root ID and the subsequent user IDs will be present. So this is my account ID. If you see only the ID, then which means that this is a root ID. So root ID means like the very topmost ID, which you cannot able to modify or delete it at this point of time. Okay, this is the root ID. And below this root ID only, we are going to onboard the resource or create the new user groups, users. So let us do one thing. Let us create some of the user groups. So already I have created a group which is named AWS Trainer Admin. So inside this group, right, what actually it is present is like username and also the permissions needed for this. Okay. It is a very good mechanism in this, right? Access restrictions. So whatever the access which you are required, that only you can able to do it. So here the admin access will be present. So let us create one more user group for you. Sorry, it's a bit slow. Training-admin, I'll create it. And it is asking me how you wanted to inherit. So there are two possibilities we can able to access or create the permissions or invoke the permissions, whether directly selecting the policies or invoking the other users. So here already we have created this training, which is something like inheriting the characters or the inheriting the policy details from the other group. That's what it is. So I'm not going to use the other usernames because I don't want it to inherit like that. So what I am doing is like I'm directly selecting the policy name from here, and I go down and create the user group. So it's creating the user group. So my another training admin, it is created. So now let's go and create one user and tag it to the user group. Test user version 1. Okay. So then what I'm selecting here is like I'm giving the AWS console access to this person. Okay. Now specify a user in identity. It's not it's recommended, but I wanted to create a fresh user so that I can able to give you more details about like, okay, what this is and all. So there are two options where you can able to auto generate the password or custom password. For now, I will create my own password here. Then other option is like user must create a new password at the next sign in. There are sometimes, right? Once the user account is created and that is sent to you, immediately after the first login itself, you will get that like, okay, reset the password immediately. So that's the option which is enabled over here, but I really don't want to do it right now. So I skipped that and I'm creating the user now. So now it is asking me which group you wanted to add this group. There are two options. You can skip adding the user group, then it will be like a single person which is hanging around, or otherwise you can tag it under a single group. Then training under admin, you can under admin, I am creating this. I am tagging this user. So next I am tagging it. So everything is there. This is kind of like a reviewable page. You can review it and then create the user. Okay, my user is created. Let me go and see that user. But before that, what I need to do is like, for my reference purpose, you can create this CSV list, which will contains the details about the users which we have created, and also the certificate information which will be present. You need to keep this document. I'm so sorry. Keep this document very safe. Let's go to the users list. How many users which are present over here? So this is Selva user training, which is I have already created before. This is something which I have created just now. So let us go inside and deep dive into it. So there is a possibility we can go into MFA. What is MFA means? Like multi-factor authentication, which is something like two-level authentication. So you are logging in using your credential for additional security, like Microsoft Authenticator. You might have used the app called Microsoft Authenticator. In that app, right, the OTP will be displayed every time. Flash OTPs will be present. 6-digit numericals will be present. Numbers will be present. So those numbers as a second level authentication we can key in. That is nothing but the multi-factor authentication. More than one level of authentication required is nothing but MFA. So if you wanted to enable this MFA for your user account, you can enable this by here. What actually it will happen is like, once you go into enable this multi-factor authentication, then it will go into this page. You can create a device name. There are multiple options you can able to enable this. Mostly my preferred one is Authenticator app. Guys, students, you can also download the Authenticator app, Microsoft Authenticator. In that Authenticator, it's a free of one. You can install it in your mobile, and then there will be a QR which will be present in this. If you go inside this app and then next, okay, test, I'll put it and go next. Okay, show the QR. If you scan this QR inside your mobile, right, then the device will be capturing that QR and it will be set up in your mobile device, Microsoft Authenticator device. So what it will do is like to enable the two levels of more authentication that, okay, is this the correct app I have connected? So it will ask you to provide two codes which is present in the in your device. Once you key in the code and then finish up this MFA, right? So every time you log in, Additionally, once your password is given, it will ask you to authenticate by providing or keying in the 6-digit numerical key code, which is present inside your mobile, which is inside this app. Okay. For that, right, you need to open inside that authenticator app and you need to key in the 6-digit number, which is present. So that is nothing but the MFA. So let's go on to the session again. So if you see here, the policies, right, we have not created the MFA currently. And the policy name is like administrator access. And it is inherited from the group training admin. So this is how the group is created. So now what I am going to do is like, I'm going to log in into this user. So I'm so sorry, probably like you are quite fresh here. So if you are feeling like I am going a bit faster, then in that case, you can stop me in the mid. So I'm happy to clarify all your queries. I think we are 1:35. I mean, it's already more time. Okay, what actually it will happen is like now you have created the test user, right? You can able to create using this test user one and the credentials, and you can able to log in inside the AWS, and you can create all the details which you wanted. For the time being, I need to explain you more details about the EC2, right? I will wrap this IAM right now. The more important things are like user groups, policies, and the users, how to create it. By knowing this, you can able to create the user. The next immediate thing which you need to know is like EC2. EC2 is like Elastic Compute Cloud. So in this only, you are creating an instance. Instance are nothing but the virtual machine. Here only we are creating the virtual machine. So let's create a virtual machine for us. Okay. So before going into that, how you might have a lot of questions like how you will select the operating system and all, right? So there are instance types will be present. Instance types are nothing but a predefined combination of RAM, CPU, and storage, all these grouped under configured, and it will be created under a type. So that type, if we select it, then in that case, the configuration will be applied to our machines also. And with that configuration, we can able to create our own. If you see inside, right, T1 micro, it's on one instance type. So if we go inside and see it, then the configurations related to this instance type, everything will be present over here. It's a micro type of device. It's a free tier, it is not available. The virtual CPUs, how many CPUs present? 1. And the threads per core, 1. Please don't worry about so much detailed terminologies which is mentioned over here. You are freshers and you are just learning AWS. Don't worry about much. So it's like you are now creating a virtual machine. Okay. So there are predefined configurations. You can say it as a configurations, which we call it as a instance types, which is already present in AWS for your easy of use purpose. So by that we can able to use it. So let's straight away go and create our own instances. So launch instance. All right. I wanted to create a new name for my instance. I will give the name as test instance training. Okay. Now I have given the name for my mission, but which operating system I would like to select it. So that is nothing but the AMI, which they will call it as Amazon Machine Image. So the image form of the operating system, everything will be predefined or it will be present inside the AWS itself, which is specifically for the easy of use. You can able to select whichever may be the operating system which you would like to select. And if you see, right, Mac OS, Ubuntu, Windows versions, everything is present over here. You can select whichever may be the OS which you wanted. So for now, I'm okay with Linux. So I'm just selecting only the Linux OS. So guys, please note that not all the operating systems are not eligible for free trial usages in your free account. So please make sure that you are selecting only the operating system which is tagged as free tier eligible. And these are all like, okay, which are architecture 64-bit or 128-bit and all like, which we can select whichever is defaulted currently. Then let's move on to instance types. Just now we have mentioned, right? Storage, RAM, CPU, how much is the RAM which I needed for this, whether it is for gaming purpose or it is for some of the high CPU usage related purpose, or this is for some analytical purpose where so much of algorithms will be running. So my RAM is required too much and my CPU usage will also be high. So based on my need, I will be selecting my instance type over here. So if you see here, right, if you drop down, a lot of instance type will be present. Again, whichever is tagged as free tier eligible, that is only applicable for free of cost. Please select only those for your explore purposes. Then T2 micro, small, if you see deep dive everything, right? See here we have 2T CPU, medium, T2 medium is having 2 virtual CPUs are present and 4 GB memory. So kind of like, okay, differences will be present. Based on the need, you can be able to select the different instances. So for the time constraint, we will select T2 micro for now. Yeah. Then if you wanted to compare the instance types, right? Just to go inside and see it over here. So it will give you a very brief idea about like, okay, what is the instance type and how many virtual CPUs are present. So currently we have selected T2 micro, which has the architecture this and memory is like 1 GB and low to moderate network performance. So if you wanted a high speed network performance, then in that case, like 5 GB, 10 GB. So it has like its own configuration is enabled for the based on the instance type, and the prices also vary based on these instances. Hope I'm quite clear on this stuff. So let's select the instance types, which is free tier. Then key pair. What does it mean by key pair? Key pair is something like if you wanted to log in into SSH terminal, right? You need the certificates, valid certificates to be downloaded. So for that purpose only, we need to create a key pair. So let's think, okay, let's check whether any existing key pairs are present. I already created one test instance as key, but still I wanted to demo you. So I will create one more key pair. So this key pair is like start training, then RSA, which is like a algorithm, then .pem and .ppk. So these are all the two type of extensions. What actually it means is like private key file formats. So .pm is the file format which has to be used, which can be used for the Windows operating system, Win 10 or afterwards. If you are using less than Win 10 operating system, I preferably say that don't use it. If you are using, then you need to download .ppk file. So currently, I'll download only the .pem. So create. This is like a certificate, so it is already downloaded for me. Okay. Then the network settings. If you see a few things which I would like to highlight over here, auto assign public IP. So the public IP addresses will be automatically assigned by the cloud itself. You no need to provide any configurations. The next very important thing is like security group. Security group is something like a firewall. What you need to do is like inbound and outbound related things, how you wanted to secure it. All these things will be present in this security group. So I'm selecting SSH traffic from 00 is IP, which means that I'm allowing all the IP address traffic into this machine which I am going to create. So I'm also planning to allow the HTTP traffic from the internet and also HTTPS. So for now, right, I'm not going to do much experiment. So let's not waste much of the resources. So I'll use only these two and leave it as it is. Then configuration, storage, advanced details. If you see right here below, a lot of things which will be present. For now, let's not bother much about all these things. So the things which you would like to know is like operating system, which operating system you would need to select it. And based on that operating system, instance types. Instant types are nothing but like, okay, the CPUs and also like the configuration, like what is the CPU size, RAM which you wanted, and the storage which you needed. So all are grouped together and it will be created under an instance type. And that instance type you can select it and keep there. Keep there is something like a SSH login. You need a security or the certificate to be downloaded. You create that and you select that keep pair login. And the network will be defaultly populated unless and until you want it multiple times. So here the number of instances we wanted is only one instance. I just create an instance. So see how very easy and also flexible it is. It is creating all the security group rules. Everything will be automatically populated over here. So now let's wait for the creation. It's like fraction of seconds it will create. Okay, now the instance is created successfully. So let's go and view all the instances. So if you see, right, my test instance is an instance which I have created already. So let me refresh it. So the test instance is the one which I have created, which is already running. So which is up and running means like my Linux VM is created and it is successfully in running state. So let the health status check to complete. Let me refresh. Initialize status check is initializing. Let's wait for a couple of seconds. Okay. Meantime, the status check in the happening in the background, right? Let me explain you a bit more details in the VM. Okay, your VM is created and a virtual machine unique ID is present, which is nothing but your instance ID, and it is a unique ID, and a public IP is automatically assigned and this is your public cloud, public IPv4 address, and it's a private IPv4 address. So public IP is, you know very well, right? Public IP is the one which will be exposed to the outside world, and that is the only IP which will be which can be accessible. And private IP is like inside the cloud, the private IP will be enabled and it will be accessible. And the instance is in the running state. And host name, this is my host name, which is automatically created. And if you see here, right, what is the instance type I have selected is like T2 micro is the one which I have selected, and the VPC ID, auto assigned IP address. So IAM role is we have not selected it. Net subnet ID. If you have some idea about like NIT and subnet ID means like, please go deep dive into it and check it like, okay, how it is creating and how the subnet ID differs and all. You can research on yourself. Then AMI name is like Amazon Machine Image, which is nothing but the OS which we have selected, which is like Linux we have selected, right? That is nothing but the AMI ID and the AMI image, which is present. And yeah, almost like information is covered here. So let's okay. So if you see, right, status check is passed, which means that it is nothing but a health check. Health check is very much essential because all the, in the initial stage of the course, right, what I mentioned is like it has fault tolerance. How it will identify the fault is right. During this health check, if it identifies anything is not normal, then in that case, it will automatically deletes that VM in the auto scaling group. It deletes that particular server and it creates a new server by using the existing configuration. Configuration, which I mean is like, I already give a basic set of information to my auto scaling group, which is present over here, that if suppose you wanted to create an image, if you wanted to create a server, then in that case, use this instance type and use this configurations and use this OS image, I mean AMI. So these are all the pre-configured instructions which I have already provided to the machine. So whenever the instance is already deleted, then using the instructions which I have provided at the initial stage, it automatically creates another server, and that will be automatically added into ELB. ELB is like Elastic Load Balancer. I'm so sorry, guys. So you need to keep note of all these acronyms or abbreviations, which is quite interesting. Initially, you might feeling very bad, like, oh, what is this? Like, okay, you need to keep all the things in your mind, but it is quite interesting. Trust me. Okay, so now, okay, everything is fine. Now the next thing comes to you, like, okay, guys, you are telling me that, okay, it's running, but how can I ensure that it is running actually or not? So I am going to connect. So I'm connecting to the instance, which is like I'm connecting to that service. So whatever I have created is corrected or not, I am going to connect. So EC2-user is a default user which will be created by the service itself. If you wanted to have another user while creating the service, or you can assign it later point of time. So let us connect. So it's establishing a connection to the VM which we have created just now. Okay, we are there. So if you see here, right, 172, 31, 38, 58. Let us go and cross check our IP address. I'm sorry. 172, 31, 38, 58. Private IP addresses became here shared because we are launching it inside the cloud itself. That's why the network is private IPv4 addresses mentioned over here. So let us give some commands to check, like, okay, whether it is working fine or not. Who am I? EC2 user, like if config. Yeah. Okay, then let's do some more thing. ls, nothing is there. So let's do one thing. Let's create some directories. Sorry, mkdir space test folder ls cd space test folder. Okay, now we have created some folders and we have created inside the folder. So why I am executing the commands, because you should get a confidence that the virtual machine which we have created is working as expected or not. If you go into a Linux server or a Linux anything, right, you should be able to do a very basic stuffs in a normal, not in the cloud, in the normal non-cloud or virtual machine, non-cloud systems also, you should be able to do the same stuff. So that's why I'm executing some of the commands for you, so that like you can able to create it on our own. So let's create a file, test.txt. So welcome to my session of AWS. I have created this content. I have created a file, and the file is tested.txt, and my content is welcome to my session of AWS. Then Control D, sorry. Then my file is created. How do I ensure that my file is created? ls. So if you see, right, test.txt is present, but I wanted to see the content of this file. So what I can do is cat test.txt see. So if you want clearly, cat. So my content is visible over here. So this is a proof that the virtual machine which we have created is working perfectly as expected. So this is how the cloud works and EC2 instances will be working. So now guys, now the thing is like, the very important thing you need to do is to avoid building into your cards. You need to stop your instances or you need to delete your instances. What you mean is like, instance state. If you select here, terminate the instances. So whenever your studies are over, just to terminate the instances. If you wanted to study again, just to create a fresh, it will be like an experience for you, as well as like you don't need to, I mean, unfortunately, if you forgot it, then it will mean like probably a loss of amount for you. So please don't do that. Then I'll give you a bit overview about the auto scaling group. So auto scaling group, why I'm insisting again and again is like load balancer. The actual functionality of load balancer is something like when more than one servers are present, then in that case, if a load or if a request is hitting a server A more number of times, then in that case, it has to be shared to the remaining servers also. So that is why the ELB, elastic load balancer, is present. But auto scaling group is top of it, which is something like whenever a more number of servers are required to be created or to be deleted, then in that case, ASG is the one which will create it and add it to the ELB, or it will delete it and remove it from ELB. Hope I'm clear. Okay, I'm using the terminologies, so please don't get confused. So what I mean is, when there is a more number of requests, then all my servers, I have 2 servers. I mentioned that 2 servers are required, 2 servers are present. So if you see here, right, how it works, minimum lot, maximum how many I can able to create. I mean, we can give the instructions to the cloud that minimum size will be 2. Maximum cloud can automatically create up to 10. So this instructions, if we provide it right, and it will automatically create it up to that whenever there is a need. So now the thing is, right, if a request is hitting one server more number of times, then how can you add it to the elastic load balancer? That is the fancy of AWS, is everything they have interconnected it. So they have not made a simple server itself is a single instances outside the things. So they have linked everything, and fantastic thing they have done is like, you wanted to scale up, scale down, remove from ELB, add it to ELB, whatever the thing which you wanted to do. You wanted a different OS, you wanted a different sizings, you want to have a less pricing thing, and you wanted to host a website. The thing is, guys, trust me, if you wanted to host a static website, like just a content related website, like college websites, right? That is a static website. You are not inputting anything, right? Some the description about the college, everything will be present in that. So that kind of websites, we can host it in the cloud in a single server itself. And you can expose that URL outside world with some of the host name configured, and that host name can be sent out to the outside world. And you can use the ELBs in that. You can use the AS auto scaling group also in that. So a lot of flexible options are present inside. So if you see, the volumes are nothing but the storages and all. I will not go deep into those things because they are all quite advanced technologies. So in short, it is like EC2 is the very basic thing which is used to have much knowledge for you guys. So please create a group or create an account for you in AWS and smartly work it. Log into AWS, create the user groups. First of all, always, if you create your own account using an email address, which is your root mail address. So root mail address have 100% access to everything, whichever is provisioned, top provisioned. So work safely. And also like create your own IAM. In that, create your own group first, users, and using that user, try to log in into your newly created user, then try to compare those users, because access will be differing between those users, right? So that by that way, you can able to identify how it is working. Oh, sorry guys. in the EC2, I thought to tell you one more thing. In EC2, I wanted to show you this region. Because IAM, we noticed that since it was global, everything was disabled. However, in EC2 is region specific. So it will give us the regions which we can access using our own account. It's a bit slow. I'm so sorry for that. All right. Okay. If you see here, right, what are all the regions is accessible for me? So there are 15 regions that are not enabled for this account because it's a free account, test account. So it will not be enabled. So all the APAC related accounts are enabled for me. So I can create a virtual machine in other accounts also. So if I go to Mumbai region, then I can create a virtual machine or the instance inside the Mumbai region also. So if you see here, there are no instances. So Mumbai region also, I can able to create my own instances. So now I come back to the Singapore instance, Singapore region, then the instances which I have created, you can able to see it. This is nothing but security level, which is securities, which are secure. That is that much of security which is configured. I'll tell a bit about the government related compliances. You will come because since you are in the study stage, right? Once you go into the company, there is a terminology which you call compliance. It is very, very important in the companies. So compliance not only with the company, it is also with the governments. So like we need to comply with the country's regulations, cross-border policies and all. So that is why, right, there are certain countries which they allow the regions or the availability zones to be created in their own country itself, which means that whoever is using their AWS, the data will be residing in their availability zone itself or in their region itself, which is residing in their country. So which will not move out of the country. So that is also government nowadays, right? Very keen or very much they are checking all these things, minute things, so that like the data will be secured. The data will not be moved out of it. So this is kind of like an overall view and a shorter demo about the time which I was provided. If you have any queries or anything, feel free to reach out to me or maybe reach out to your staff members or Mr. Sankaganeshar. I'm happy to provide much more details about it. But the thing is like, this may be big vague for you at the initial stage of time. But trust me, guys, like there are quite number of functionalities. Anything is present. If you see, right, anything is configurable, available, which is present. In case of networking and all, if you see deeper dive, right, a lot of facilities are available in AWS. So hope this might have interested you to learn more about the AWS. So use the free account, make best use of these opportunities which is provided by these companies, and create your account and makes your hand dirty, so that like, okay, you can move into the next level of career. Because like career, cloud is having a great future in the IT market. So wherever if you go, right, either it is a private cloud or a public cloud, most of the governments or like the financial institutions are nowadays relying mostly on the cloud. The reason is like the scalability, security, and a lot of things we can say. So wherever the cloud, then there is a need of IT guy like us and engineers like us. So please take everything into your mind and then consider this for your future. Thank you very much. Ma'am, over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for this exciting and very interesting and informative session, sir. Thank you very much for the hands-on demo you have shown on this AWS console, wherein you started from creating an instance and how it goes on, the authenticator app and everything. So I have a small doubt. As a starter, as a beginner for the students, what kind of certification would be ideal for them in AWS, sir?
AWS basic certification is present. I can provide you the details in the mail because there are quite number of lessons will be present. So first of all, like, okay, creating an account and then ask them to go ahead with this. Because why I'm not asking for the certification is the certification is quite vague. The very initial certification itself is quite vague. So that's why I'm not making the students carry for now. So
Okay,
once
sir.
they go inside into these details, they will get very much interested and they can able to proceed further.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Now I would like Mr. Vigilson, sir, to have a few words on this session, sir.
Thanks, madam. Okay, sir, it is a very nice session. I think, as you recently told, it is meant for beginners actually. Mostly second years and third year students only will be watching this. So, for them, it is going to be very useful. And as you said, I also think in that way. At the beginning itself, if they are going for a certification, they may, at some point, they may lose interest and they may skip it and it goes difficult. So let them start with these basic concepts. And once they are working in this for a few days, automatically they will get interest to know more and they will go for the certificate. That also, we are also insisting. And I would like to, on behalf of Department of Computer Science and Engineering and RMK College of Engineering and Technology, and on behalf of our head of the department, Dr. Sangar Ganesh, and all the faculty members, I would like to thank you very much for spending a valuable time in the holiday, and that makes very much useful session for us. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you,
Makes a lot.